into the Wild Horse and Burro Act. So if they are an integral component to the natural system, as we know they are, then they have an environmental role to play. And that is what I have worked to support and bring forward for the last nearly 18 years. So what I'd like to do is show you a little film that of an initiative, something we did last July. So we'll start with the film. I have a little slide presentation just to, so I remember what I want to say to everybody. And like I always ask, I prefer to have conversations as we go. I don't like to sit and teach and preach to everybody and then have a Q&A. If anyone wants to ask anything or say anything about anything as we're going through, please feel free to do so. The science of awe. When you are awestruck by some incredible thing that you're seeing. It enables us to offer a conversation and the opportunity to find balance with others.
There's just nothing better than this. The last 2 days, there's just been times I've been just completely overcome with gratitude.
I'm running horses today, first time. Over the last 3 years, we have come to this valley, not welcome, and have started to become embraced with our horses.
To validate our Forest Service permits, we are trailing the horses about 30 miles from Jordan's ranch, where they spent the winter down valley in milder conditions than the grazing allotments, where the horses will now spend the next few months through to the fall. This is the first time these permits have been reissued for wild horses in the last 90 years. We set a new precedent.
When the community as a whole saw Manda's website, Rewilding America, everybody freaked out. And that's really what led me to contact Manda, and it was a different experience than what I was expecting. I've dealt with a lot of confrontation in my life. I approached Manda with the idea that a true environmentalist and a rancher should have an awful lot in common.
There's an unbelievable man that is a fourth generation rancher. It was a gift that man drove into my ranch. We want to see the same things.
We're trailing wild horses to the forest up in Davis Canyon. We got about 24 miles to cover, so it's gonna be a lot of time on horseback, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
The horses are gonna come out, and hopefully we've got a little bit of control. The last 2 days are the culmination of 6 months worth of work, and it was flawless. All the credit goes to Ken. He's been training kids and he's been training horses.
These kids were already trained. I coached them a little bit. It just made everything easy.
It was a little tricky, but everybody knew what to do and everybody did their job, so everything went according to plan.
It was unbelievable. We validated our Forest Service permit today. Years in the making, horses, booths on the Forest Service, 10,000 acres, unbelievable.
I think it's great that we have wild horses. You just gotta control the numbers, or it's just like anything else, it gets out of hand.
It's really important that it's happening out in this area, but there is lands here that are available for it. Amanda's done so much. You have the same goal here, and that's to try to preserve this animal and to preserve the way they live.
There is not a rancher in this country who doesn't want cleaner water. There is not a rancher who doesn't want cleaner air.
These incredible horses and their babies, these were unwanted and uncared for. I couldn't do this without you. And they wouldn't be here.
This is the start.
Yes.
More fun things coming down the pipeline.
Yes.
More to come.
More to come.
More natural grazing systems could really be a solution for a lot of biodiversity and climate challenges in the United States. Better soil conditions, more carbon storage, preventing wildfires.
You see something out there, the mountains, horses running across the landscape, beautiful birds, whatever triggers you, gives you the most incredible feeling. We really have more in common with each other than we think. When you are out in these beautiful landscapes, it enables us to find a place of commonality and purpose. This is the power of all. All we need now is to work together to create proper policies that value horses, humans, and habitat.
Thank you. It was pretty unbelievable, I have to say. I mean, as beautiful as it looked, you had to see it in real life, in person. I mean, it was amazing, and it was amazing in so many ways. I mean, the most amazing part about it was the fact that we are working with the local ranching community in Idaho, in our location. And that is what makes everything so amazing and so unique. Let me put up my little slide presentation. Let me see what that is now. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I can do this right. All right. We're good? Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. So I guess the focus of what I wanted to share with everybody and hear what everybody thinks is what I'm doing and the way I see this. And when I say a new day is closer than you think, is really for the fact that change is coming. Change is absolutely imperative at this time. You know, we have to come together in a new and different way. You know, when you sit back, everybody's scrambling in their own world on what should we do? How do we fight this? How do we change things? Horses are being dumped at the auction, the kill pens, the slaughters, the auction houses. They're going directly from roundups in trucks, being dumped off at the kill buyers and the auction. And now these people at the auctions are selling these horses now for $1,200 a piece to bail them out of the kill pens. People are then scrambling to raise bail money. There's not enough money. There are no resources to maintain this while we're trying to fight policy in an administration that doesn't want to provide health care for people. So how do we do this? How do we save the horses? How do we change our narrative? And to do that, we have to come together. We have to fight together, come together, and we have to create with change. The only way to fight is with change. We have to move the needle, change the narrative. Don't go back and fight for the same things that we've been fighting for. We need to fight with change, new things that we come to the table with, that we present, that are science-backed, things that have credibility and validate horses as an integral component to the natural system that deserve and belong on America's rangelands and public lands. So that is what we are set out to do in Idaho, where we call this the Birch Creek Project, because it takes place in Birch Creek, Idaho. I'm at the top of a mountain. I have several grazing permits that we are working to, I work with Laura Lee, and we are working to convert those permits from cows to horses. So let me see my little notes here. So I picked up just a couple of pictures so you can get an idea of what Birch Creek is like. The town, which is about 30 miles from us, has a population of 105 people. It's a tiny little place. It is the most incredible, we all love the landscapes out west, and most of you, I think, live out west, but this place is different. It's so large, the sky, the landscape is so huge. It's got this vastness to it. It's got 6 or 7 remaining in my valley families that are homesteaders. Their great grandparents were homesteaders. They did their private land, and their permits have been passed down for over 100 years. So it's very incestuous. They don't sell their lands to anybody really outside the community. It was just, serendipitous in a way that we were able to join this community. You can see the landscape here. This is Houston. He's our ranch manager. He lives there. He's from a little town called Mud Lake. Yes, Mud Lake. And this is some of the horses on my land. I have some private land, and I've been rescuing horses from the kill pens, right? The titled Mustangs from the kill pens and from the BLM. There's never a day you don't see some cows. It's a cow place. It was a sheep place, now it's a cow place. So this is Birch Creek, and this is where our home base is for all this work that we are aspiring to do. Any questions or thoughts? Okay. So I thought, since I've been the rewilding person, and it's been brought to my attention, that we should just have a little conversation, because the work we're trying to do is create wilding habitats. And I want to just go through what is the difference between rescuing horses, rehoming horses, and rewilding horses. What I have noticed and has been brought to my attention multiple times is that now people are rescuing horses, fabulous, and they're putting them out and they're saying, we are rewilding horses. So now everybody is rewilding horses, and it's amazing, and I only wish that would be true. But I wanted to discuss what actually is rewilding. What is the process of rewilding that would enable somebody to actually say, we have a rewilding project that we are working on. with wild horses as a keystone species. Rewilding is not rescuing horses and putting them on land or rehoming horses. Rewilding is an environmental process. And I have two definitions here for us to take a look at. So the Webster's Dictionary says rewilding is an effort to increase biodiversity and restore the natural processes of an ecosystem. That typically involves reducing or ceasing human activity, and often the planned reintroduction of a plant or animal species, and especially a keystone species. The definition on the Rewilding America Now website reads, a progressive large-scale approach to conservation focused on restoring natural processes and self-sustaining ecosystems with minimal human intervention. So basically, if we really want to rewild, what we have to understand is that you need an entire ecological system to do this. From predation on top all the way down. There are all kinds of different systems that the environment offers, from insects to raptors, to the mega herbivores, to the predators, to the carnian. You know, when an animal dies on the landscape, it is part of rewilding. That animal's carcass feeds an entire system of other things that allows that survival of insects, of certain predators, of birds, of all kinds of different kind of animals. It's a part of the system. So we can't put horses on a piece of land and say, we've rescued them, now we're rewilding that. We need to put environmental systems, help the environment to rebuild itself the way only the environment knows how. And this, I think we should talk about for a minute. Does anyone have any thoughts or how to do this or how can we get started to do this? No rewilders in the audience?
What's up? Hang on. It's got a big boss. You see?
I can see anybody. Hi, Amanda.
Go sit down. Okay, it's for people scared about. I was just wondering, you say this is a ranching legacy of Valley. How was the condition of the ecosystem when you first began the program?
Good question. So it is an arid, sagebrush steppe environmental system. So it's not prairie. Like in North Dakota, we have prairie, so it's big, tall, long grasses. This is a very arid, dry sagebrush situation. There's all sage, juniper trees, different kinds of brush grasses that can survive with less water. So it's very interesting. The sage and the brush grass, it's so interesting. It has very long roots, but the roots don't go very deep. They stay closer to the surface and spread out this way because there's not as much water. So it is able to absorb the water. What I have noticed depends on the rancher, correct? So Jordan, who you saw in the video, he is very concerned that his allotments and his lands look and are a certain way. So he is a very conservative rancher and very, we now call this initiative conservation ranching. So he is very concerned about how his his private lands and allotments look. He is considerate to the land. His allotments look beautiful. The neighbor to the left, maybe not so much, right? He uses his allotments for the allotted time that he is, 2, 3, 4 months, whatever it is, and then he moves them to the next, and he waits for the BLM or the Forest Service range cons who come and look at everything to make comments on things. So he's a different kind of rancher. Our focus and our goal and hope in this community is to get all of our small group of ranching factions, as many as we can, to want to be a part of our conservation ranching. Jordan on his private lands right now has horses, some of these horses, with his cows. And he is working to experiment with how to graze horses and cattle. So the horses are eating most of the knapweed, which is fabulous, and the cattle are eating most of the brush. The cows won't eat the knapweed. So they run dry on things, and then the knapweed keeps overcoming the brush. The horses now are eating the knapweed. They like all dried things. They don't care. And it's enabling that knapweed to not be as productive in that landscape, allowing more brush. So this is a wonderful thing, horses and cows working together on a landscape. And these are the kind of things we need to come to the table with. This is the kind of thing we need to have data and monitoring and documentation to off-put all of the propaganda that has always been out there by the BLM about horses and the destruction of the lands. We need to show that proper management, if the BLM did their job properly, right, overseen by the Department of Interior, there are ways that horses and cows can work together.
Thank you.
Sumi.
So, let me see, any other rewilding questions?
Hi, Amanda.
Yeah.
I'm Deborah West. I'm the founder of Liberty Sanctuary here in Utah. Thank you for your good work.
Hi, Deborah. Nice to meet you and yours.
Nice to meet you. I'm originally from the East Coast as well. But follow what you're doing. I firmly believe, and our group, we firmly believe that, once a wild horse is removed from its range, that rewilding is absolutely the gold standard. And we're limited in our resources. So what I've tried to do is to reach out to local land groups like Utah Open Lands. We think that we agree with you that it's an ecosystem and the horses can be beneficial. And it'd be kind of great to prove that to the BLM. But I wonder your thoughts about it, because I think that every state should have something like this. And again, thinking about how to do this in a cost-effective way with proper management. Have you reached out to land preservation groups like Utah Open Lands, and I'm sure every Colorado obviously has a lot of preservation about how to expand the access to lands for our wild horses should conditions become worse, and they're already awful. So many horses in holding right now. Would love to see more of them on private lands if they can't be in their homelands.
Yeah. Amazing question, because it's the question, right? It's the question of how do we build consensus, bring other landowners in and work to help what's happening with our horses. So I want to address one quick thing that you said in the beginning, about doing this work so we can show the BLM. The thing is, we can show the BLM 1,000 different things that are positive. I'm not sure that they will value that, or that's their mandate, right? To ensure that, we need to get them to manage the land properly. And we need to figure out, perhaps the way to do that is through policy, right? And all of that. So to answer your question, everything you're saying is in our planned agenda to do. We are just, I am hesitant to start reaching out to too many of these larger organizations until I have completed some of the monitoring, right? Because I need to come to these people by saying, you know, I have now 6 ranchers doing this, and 6 successful ranchers, and some of the science. Right now, I have about 3 of the community there working with us, and I'm working together to have a few other ranchers, but will take 6 horses, 12 horses, you know, that we are working with, because the more of that ranching community that can say, we love having horses on our land, and you know, they're working out well for us, then we can go to those people. So I am looking for people like you. We need to, because you're the first natural fit for us to say we're working together. You know, you don't have to have a lot of land, but maybe we can take a small parcel of your land and figure out how to manage some sort of small study. Make sense a little bit?
Yeah, sorry, my mic's gone, but happy to help in any way we can.
Listen, I love that, and the hope is, especially in this time, we need to promote change. That's how we need to fight. We cannot fight conventionally the way we normally have. We need to move the needle with change, through the evolution of change, because as this administration self-implodes, as they will be, and they are, we have to put the pieces back together in a new way. We can't go back to the old way. The old way doesn't work. This is the future, and we need to put our heads down, move forward, and work together silently under the radar so that we can make headway in politically and environmentally. People like these ranchers, this is the moment. They're not happy. This administration is not serving these people. We're all in the same boat, and they are more amenable to having conversations and open to this, because now we have a lot in common. And that's a little bit what's been happening.
Great. Alfonso, I'll speak to you. Question.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Amanda. First of all, you are quite the inspiration, and this is definitely something that is I'm very interested in. I worked as a cowgirl for many years for the permittees, and I'm interested in hearing how you created that relationship with the ranchers, and what kind of incentives were there to get their attention, to have those conversations. And then, so I have 2 questions. So that is a question. And then also, have you seen Roger Savory's work, where he's taking desert and turning it into grasslands using horses and cattle?
That's Alan Savory's son, right?
Yes.
Yes, I know of him and Alan Savory. I mean, I met Alan Savory several years ago. And he's interesting. He's a little controversial, you know, back in the day. His Savory method, but I understand his son, right, is sort of working. They have a methodology, their own methodology that they use. Listen, anybody doing any environmental rewilding type of work, anybody that is valuing the natural system to preserve, you know, lands and environment is good. It's a good thing. You know, what I've noticed is what's happened is, and from the past, all those things, even that work is political. It's political, and this is the thing. We need to not, we are an organic movement. We are a movement of the people, you know? And we need to stay that way. Needing policy and wanting to affect policy for change has to value the people. So let me skip to my last slide, which answers your question. So this is the third lane to answer your question about the ranchers. So this is Jordan and I thought it was a nice picture somebody took. This was the day after, this was the afternoon after Jordan had, we had brought those, they drove those horses up and over onto my Forest Service land. So those mares, so here's the story of how Jordan and I met and how the community, how this is working. So there were 45 mares that were pregnant. They were from a tribe in Oregon, and they had been rounded up and were going to be sent off to the kill pens, right? The auction houses. So I took them, and now I have these 45 pregnant mares, and it's September, October, and they looked very pregnant. And I'm now on the top of this mountain. This is 2.5 years ago. I'm at the top of the mountain, and it's very cold. There's wind coming, it's cold, and because of the situation they came out of, I don't know that there was that, you know, were they all bred in the spring so they'll foal in the spring? I mean, there's no, you know, everything has been all off for them. They were then held with studs in a rodeo corral thing. So I don't know. So now I'm panicked that they're going to start dropping babies in January and they're going to freeze to death. And so I'm trying to build shelters. We have straw we're building. We're putting out. We have all these things that we're doing. And one day, Jordan and his father, I was there, it was in October, and he pulls in, and they're standing outside, and he says, I saw you were here, I wanted to introduce myself. Now, in the year I've been there, it was February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, yeah, in the almost 10 months that I had bought the place and been there, I had met a soul, really. I had not really met any of the ranchers. And I kept saying, I need to meet the ranchers, I need to meet the people, who's my neighbor. So he drives in, and you could see he was a little bit put off. He wasn't put off, he was unguarded. He was guarded. And he said, I need to ask you a question. He said, why do those mares look that way at this time? Meaning, why do they look that pregnant at the end of October? It was October 31st, to be honest. Like they're gonna bust and have a baby. And I looked at him and I said, I know, it's so bad. If I tell you how shocked and surprised he was, because of course, they thought I was some woman from New York that didn't know what she was doing and came up, bought a place, and now I'm breeding horses. All at the wrong time. So when I said to him, I'm losing sleep at night, I don't know what to do, I'm running to look, and you can see I'm building shelters, I've got straw everywhere and windbreaks, and I'm a wreck, it's true. I was a wreck all the time because I don't live there. I come and go. How am I going to protect these mares if they start dropping babies and it's 30 below with the wind? And he looked at me and I said, I rescued these horses. They were off to the slaughter. They were all pregnant and they were being sent to the slaughter. Timing didn't work in my favor. He was, I can't tell you how taken aback he was. And he stopped and stood there for a minute and he said, we might be able to help you.
Oh, you called food?
And I said, oh my God, now I'm literally in tears because the thought of somebody helping me here. I mean, I have 45 pregnant mares. So, he said, call me when you get home. So I called him the next week and it's like, hi, it's me. Remember me? You're going to help me? So you're going to help me? And he said, yeah, I talked about it with Kent, who you saw in the video, who is his wrangler. And he said, I have, he's got one of the largest cow herds there and operations. And he said, we have camping sheds down here and I'll take the horses for the winter. And I didn't even have to ship them. And he's about 40 minutes down valley, right? That's my town of 105 people. And he told me, he says, I'll be there the first week of December. And I didn't have to say a word. He came up with 2 goosenecks and spent the day loading those horses into those trailers and bringing them down to his place. Didn't say a word. He just did it. Those mares spent the winter there. They foaled. He and I became friends. He has 6 kids, amazing children from 18, 16, 11, 9, and now he has 2 little babies. But they did everything. And every single day, that man would email me some picture of a foal and a mare, and he would thank me for the joy that this has brought he and his family, having these horses in his life. And this man and his family and the community, they all ride horses. They're cowboys, right? They ride, they ranch, they've grown up on horses. But those horses have shown him horses in a different way. And those horses brought us together as horses do. And they showed him a whole new way of seeing horses on the landscape. And so I said, well, on July, we have to validate that Forest Service permit. And he had told me that it was his vision and dream that there's a cattle trail. His grandfather used to drive the cattle from where they live. And, there was one little moment in there, you could see a bend. They were riding through like a little bend up within the trees. And it takes you up to Gilmore Summit. And then you go across his valley over to my valley. And where the Forest Service land is. And it was his dream. He's always imagined driving horses on that trail, being at 6 a.m. when the sun is coming up at the top of the summit to see the sunrise with the horses. And that is what he did. That was what you saw. He and his children and his brother and his brother's kids, they're amazing horse people. And they worked with these horses so that they, would ride alongside them and the horses knew to cue left or right. It was unbelievable. And on that morning, he lived his dream. He drove these amazing horses and their foals, and they went up and they drove those horses about 4 hours, maybe 5, go and stop and go and stop. And then they stopped at a parcel of land that he owns with corrals that they used to have for sheep. And they got there about midday. And then the horses stayed watered and rested, and they spent the whole evening there. And they had a chuck wagon. That was the fire, right? Everyone, they had a chuck wagon, And then they headed out the next morning around 5:30 or 6, and they drove those horses onto that beautiful Forest Service land that I have. At 9 in the morning, we met them, and they, the Forest Service was there and counted all of them and said, you have a valid Forest Service permit made out for grazing horses.
Great.
But the thing about it was that it wasn't that I just pulled up and unloaded horses. I did it with the community. I did it with this ranching family, these amazing people. That made it so much more important a process.
Okay.
And one of the gentlemen that I work with, we buy hay from him. He was there. He helped us, and he was very emotional. He does hay, and he ranches. He has cows. He was very emotional and told us a story about how happy he is that wild horses are back on the land. The horses in this location, the last horse was taken off about 90 years ago. And so there's a wild horse location in Chalice, but where we are, there are no wild horses any longer. There's no HMAs here. They zeroed them out. And Brian told us how his grandmother, his great-grandmother, they had a business. And the business back in the day is they'd round up some of these wild horses, they'd break them, and then they were sold to the cavalry or the state, the state troopers, or back in the day they were riding horses. And his grandmother loved horses. She loved the horses. She grew up in that business, and his grandmother died at 102, and for her 102nd birthday, her wish was to ride a horse, and they put her on a horse.
So we will thank you. Okay, Amanda, we have time for one more question.
Okay. I didn't get to any of my topics, but okay.
Amanda, Eric Mulvard here. In the original,
Hi! Long time no see.
it has been a long time. The original vision for Rewilding America was going to include bison as well. And I wanted to figure out if that's still the plan, and if so, how that American Prairie business with Brigham pulling the permits for bison is going.
Yes.
And also, how you see the dissolution of the regional offices of the Forest Service possibly affecting your ability to convert permits.
Okay, so let me start with first quick bison. So yes, of course, bison is always a component of any project, right? Because we need them. But I have to be very careful. There's a bison ranch there. Did you know that, Eric?
Nope.
Okay, there's a bison ranch in Lemhi Valley, and they have permits. And what has happened is the community has soured on bison because this man didn't care about the fencing, so his bison ran through all the fencing, was a big drama, and so the community is nervous about bison. So I would say, yes, my hope is, of course, to have bison, but like anything, we are taking one step at a time, right? I'm now getting people locally to accept horses, and the hope and the goal is to have other ranching people take horses on their land and convert. We are working to convert some of their AUMs. I have a rancher that said that convert some of I have old sheep AUMs, I'll give them to let's convert some of these things for horses. So I'm getting horses, I'm getting them comfortable with that. It's about making the community comfortable. It's about the third lane, Eric, in finding balance, finding a way that we can work together on some of these lands so there's not so much push and pull. The thing about Burgum and the Montana Prairie Reserve, I think, as you would know, I mean, that's a lot of politics. I mean, was that trying to make the cattle lobby happy? Because Trump gave Argentina, right, $20 billion to buy cattle, to buy beef. I don't know, but right now, you know, I don't know about I don't know the ramifications of buffalo permits in places that don't have any big press or PR. You know, Montana Prairie Reserve has a large visual thing about what they're doing. So, you know, I think as we stay under the radar, I think we'll be okay for now. As far as the Forest Service, I had a conversation with my range con about this. According to everything, it's 6,500, right, Forest Service research people that they're trying to relocate, which is just another way to get them to quit. You agree? Yeah. Okay, so right now my Forest Service office there has 3 guys, and they seem to be able to handle the valley as little. I'm more concerned about the BLM.
Okay, thank you.
I have 2 BLM offices. One it seems operational, the other is very slow.
Okay, Amanda, I know we didn't get it, we could talk for hours on this. I would love to schedule a Zoom, maybe an hour and a half long Zoom, and invite the attendees to come and join us maybe in a week or so, if that would work, because I know you didn't get to a lot of stuff, and there's a lot more questions, but we're just pressed for time.
Yes.
We have just a lot of speakers.
I appreciate that. And I need to ask Eric to talk about what you think about, because, you know, the whole thing with the bison, with NEPA and the FLIPMA, right?
Yeah. So if you guys want to maybe talk at lunch, or make some kind of connection there for you guys to do that. Okay?
No, I would love that. And I just want to thank you again. And again, I think the whole thing is to work together. Eric and his organization and what we're trying to do. And, you know, I work with, Ross is a mainstay with us, Dr. McPhee, Eric Lundgren. You know, we need to build consensus, build science, build everything. Eric is busy, has been fighting for the rights of public lands for a long time. And I would love to hear your opinion, Eric, if we can talk, because horses are written into the FLIPMA and buffalo are not.
Yeah, so like I said, this is going to be a really good conversation. And like I said, you guys can get in touch, or we can do it during the Zoom if we can get both of you guys to come on. So thank you so much for your time, and appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, and Linda, as always, thank you for bringing people together.